Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to review this Moon Knight complete collection by Brian Michael Bendis and Alex Maleev. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I am your host, Brent, and today we're going to review this Moon Knight complete collection that just came out. This is by Brian Michael Bendis and Alex Maleev. This came out a few years ago. I believe it said 2013. I did an overview of it, so if you haven't read it and want to just check out what the art looks like, you can go and check that video out. But I just read this, all 12 issues of it, one sitting. I mean, it's a Bendis book. They're kind of quick reads normally. And then Maleev's art, I think, normally is it like lends to that fast-paced dialogue that Bendis does, because the art is so dark and grimy that your eye is kind of pulled to the main thing that's happening in the panel and not really a bunch of stuff in the background, at least in this book. So we're going to get into it, but before I get into the review any further, let me ask you, please do one thing. Please subscribe. Helps me out, helps the channel grow, lets you know when I drop new videos, all the good stuff. So Moon Knight complete collection. Like I said, it's 12 issues long. It's kind of a thin trade paperback. The paper quality is glossy, and I mean, it looks kind of thin, but it doesn't feel thin. Like, there was never any point when I was reading this that I could see the colors from the next page. I think a lot of that has to do with the page borders that are throughout the book, where you're never doing like a full bleed page or anything like that, and then switching to a white, panel page and seeing the page from the inside. Everything's pretty consistent. I mean, as I say that, I switched to a full bleed page, but most of the time you have the white panel borders. I guess it goes with the Moon Knight part of it to have these white panel borders about, around the majority of the book. It just lends you that era of like that edginess, that in-your-faceness that Moon Knight is supposed to be all about. I mean, the whole idea of Moon Knight, while not explained in this book, a lot about Moon Knight is not explained in this book. But the whole idea is that he puts on white so that you know he's coming, so that you see him coming and that you kind of like shit your pants kind of thing, because who in their right mind would dress in all white at night and then fight crime? That's basically the concept behind Moon Knight. So normally you're reading about Mark Spector, his alternate personalities of Stephen Grant, Jake Lockley, all this kind of stuff. All that is gone here. It's kind of just pushed aside, never really explained for a reason why, other than a line in maybe the third or fourth issue where he's saying he's trying some new techniques. Those new techniques turn out to be him taking on the persona or the techniques of Spider-Man, Captain America, and Wolverine, which you see here on the cover. I mean, it's pretty clear what's going on from this first cover image. So that's who the voices are in his head. What's different about this Moon Knight than other Moon Knights, I think, that I've read, is that he's not switching personalities per se. And even the more modern Moon Knight books don't really do that as much. Like, you have Moon Knight and Mr. Knight right now in the main series that's going on, which is fantastic, by the way. If you're not reading the current Moon Knight book, go check it out. It's really good. But, Spider-Man never really takes over. He's never thinking he's Spider-Man. He always thinks he's Mark Spector Moon Knight, and using the augmented things of the heroes he's emulating in order to be a better Moon Knight. You never have Moon Knight yelling out, "I'm Captain America," or "I'm Wolverine," or anything like that. They only exist in his mind as people he's talking to, or his assistants, or if he needs to bounce something off of them. They're frequently commenting on what Moon Knight is doing and how he could be doing it better, and other things like that. Also present in this book, which I liked for a little bit until something happened to this character, was Maya Lopez, or Echo. So if you're not familiar with Echo, she was recently featured in the Hawkeye Marvel series. So not really a great representation of her there, although I'm not that familiar with her in general. I think she appeared in the beginning part of the Bendis Daredevil run, and then she appeared in New Avengers a little bit later, and she's here, I think, in the current Marvel Universe in 2022. She is the Phoenix Force and can be seen in Jason Aaron's Avengers run. So she's kind of here, she's there, she's never really had a book of her own kind of thing. So what is she doing in this book? Well, it's just a character Bendis can use, I guess, that wasn't already tied up in another book that, since this takes place in Los Angeles, he could use to bounce off Moon Knight. The other new character in here, which I don't know if this is I want to say it's an original character. His name is Buck, and he was an ex-agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he's kind of like Moon Knight's tech guy. So he's making the web spinners from Spider-Man, the pseudo Wolverine claws. He gets Moon Knight the energy Captain America shield, the 0-point energy shield, and just kind of outfits him with all of his needs and kind of helps Moon Knight call S.H.I.E.L.D. or call the Avengers, that kind of stuff. So those are your three main hero characters, and then you have all the voices in Moon Knight's head. And the voices in Moon Knight's head, Spider-Man, Captain America, and Wolverine, they're never they're always talking about Moon Knight stuff. They're talking about stuff that Moon Knight knows. So this is just what Moon Knight's impression of these guys are. I think he was serving on the Secret Avengers at a time. They talk about that a little bit. I can't remember if that was a Brubaker thing or maybe it was part of what was it? Ellis that did a run on that or something like that. Remender. Anyway, there's a lot of Secret Avengers, and all these different teams have different members all the time. So it's hard to remember everything, especially when I don't have every book. But so he references that, but I think these are the impressions that he has of these characters, because they never quite ring true. Captain America rings true, at least in Mark's head, because he is the most steadfast, kind of patriotic, kind of what you want Captain America to talk like. Wolverine is constantly aggressive. He never uses the word bub, which kind of gives me the impression that Moon Knight's never really met Wolverine. And Spider-Man is a little bit funny, but he's not really the Spider-Man that you know. He's never worried about anything. He's just kind of smarmy and always kind of a more fun attitude. So I think that's kind of where Bendis took these personalities and said, Captain America's going to be the rational one. Wolverine's going to be the aggressive one. And Spider-Man is just going to be a little bit smarmy, a little bit whatever I need him to be, that kind of thing. So that makes it a little bit interesting when you think about it from that way. It's not really the three main heroes of the Marvel Universe. It's his impression of them. And that makes Moon Knight a little bit more interesting. Although they do kind of strip all the interesting stuff away from Moon Knight because he's using these three characters rather than the established personalities he's had in the past. So I don't remember if Bendis was talking to him in interviews at the time he didn't like that stuff, or he couldn't relate to it, or he didn't know about Moon Knight and wanted to just write what he knew, which is a street level hero that has a big cast of characters to bounce off of and have a lot of dialogue, and maybe that's where this comes in. So it's hard to say. The plot about the Ultron head does carry throughout the entire book. It's all about this Ultron head that shows up in LA, or Ultron body, and then the head gets separated from the body, and then the villain, Count Nefaria, is trying to get the head all the way throughout. So that's basically the plot of the entire book. All 12 issues is all about this Ultron head and Count Nefaria and getting him to stop having an Ultron. It's never explained why he has an Ultron or why he wants one. It never gets into that. Count Nefaria is always just kind of there to be powered and to be aggressive, or just fighting Moon Knight or whoever and just getting frustrated a lot. Just the kind of the same way that the Hood was when Bendis was writing him. Never really got a good sense of who that character was or what his motivations were. He was always just aggravated by the heroes because that's the only time you saw him, was when the heroes were battling him. It's the same thing with Count Nefaria here, and I think it suffers a little bit for that. You don't really have a main villain, you have a main villain. You just don't have an engaging one. So that kind of strips the book away from being a good recommended read. Being well, this is a good read. Well, what can you say about this book other than it's kind of a quick read? Is it satisfying? Yeah, I think so. I had fun with it. But like I said in my overview, I'm not going to recommend it to somebody who's looking to read Moon Knight for the first time. This is if you don't like Moon Knight, maybe try this, because this kind of does away with all of the alternate personality stuff that's kind of complicated and centers it more in the Marvel Universe with the voices of Captain America, Wolverine, and Spider-Man that are here, and moves away from the origin. I mean, some of that origin is rehashed a little bit in the first issue with the intro with the TV series that he's developing, but that TV series thing never really takes off. Bendis never really does anything with it. It's there in the first 2 issues. Then we spend the 10 issues after that with Moon Knight, with Maya Lopez, with Count Nefaria, with the Avengers, all that stuff. And then it's only at the last issue that we revisit this idea of Mark Spector producing a TV show. It's never like a B plot in the series. It's always like, this was the setup, and we don't need that anymore, and we're just going to do away with it for the rest of the 12 issues. So it's kind of, it suffers for that a little bit. I think that was an interesting thing. How can you be Moon Knight and a TV producer producing a television show about your own life at the same time? All that stuff is just kind of like, nah, we don't really need to focus on that. It's just, it's set dressing. It's a background thing. It's something to give Moon Knight a reason to be in LA rather than any other place he's been in the past volumes of his series. So there you have it. Moon Knight, complete collection by Bendis. Meh, I think that was the mood around the time when this was coming out, that this was an okay read, and I fully think that is the case. It's an okay read. So if you like Moon Knight, I say give it a shot. If you've never read Moon Knight, don't start with this, because this is not anything. It's not anything that's going to get you to want to read more Moon Knight, I think. This is not the most interesting part of the character. This is not his most interesting story in modern times. This is a far shot from all of that. So a little bit disappointing on that front. But the art is Alex Maleev, who you either love him or you hate him. I feel like he's one of these guys like Humberto Ramos, even though he's on the complete other side of the spectrum stylistically. Like, Maleev is very sketchy, very dark, very muddy, very... his storytelling is very good. I'll give him that. His storytelling is good, but he gets a little sloppy in his fight scenes. Like, there was this fight scene when the Night Watch shows up, I think that they're called, this group of like F-list villains that show up, and things got really sloppy. Like this top panel up here, I'm just looking at it, I'm like, what happened to you, Maleev? Like, this is too heavy on the inks and not enough line work. Just kind of really, really sloppy. And this image right here of Moon Knight was just, it's not very good. So he has other great images later in the book. It was just in this middle part here, it was like, are you trying to figure something out? Have you figured it out by now? Why does this look so bad? Were you rushing this month? All those sorts of questions kind of come to your head when you're reading it. I want to commend him for doing all 12 issues, for sticking around and not having any fill-ins and stuff. That makes this one of the few volumes of a run that has the same artist all the way through. It's just, you can tell when maybe he was rushing to meet the deadline so that he could have a full run or whatever, even if it's 12 issues. So I think it suffers a little bit for that. But there you have it, Moon Knight, complete collection by Bendis and Maleev. Let me know down below what you thought of this book. If you think it's worth recommending to newbies, if you think it's worth recommending to Moon Knight fans. I don't think it falls in either of that camp. So let me know what you think down below. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.